What's up, everyone? Welcome to another Basement Radio Arcade podcast. It's BRAP. It's Friday. It is Friday, and a happy Friday to everyone, by the way. Look, said I was going to do a BRAP rant later on in the week, and lo and behold, it's Friday afternoon. I don't know about you all, but I'm excited for the weekend. Weather should be, actually, the weather is kind of iffy on Saturday, tomorrow here where I live, but it's going to be great Sunday. It's going to be sunny, and going to play a lot of video games this weekend. One video game in particular I'm going to be playing is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Can't wait to play that again. I've been playing that game since its release. It's the only game I've been playing since its release. And the game is doing gangbusters. I mean, there is a lot of dialogue, conversation around this game. I walked into my local GameStop today and went in to trade in one of the Xbox Series consoles I have here in my house. And the gentleman who was working, I don't know if he was the manager or an associate there, but we started talking about The Legend of Zelda, and he was telling me how his Nintendo rep was telling him that the performance of Tears of the Kingdom has really exceeded the expectations that Nintendo had for this game. Excuse me. So this game's going to be huge. I expect this game to just do some tremendous numbers. It's already the fastest selling Zelda game. It's already sold 10 million copies within 3 days globally. It's just a massive runaway success. It's a really great game. And it's a reminder of what happens when developers take their time and let these games cook. This game was in development for 6 years. One of the things that the associate or manager at GameStop told me, he had heard this from his Nintendo rep. The Nintendo rep informed him and said, hey, you know what? Everything you fuse or you build, like if you've been watching some of the YouTube videos and seeing some of the tweets on Twitter, you'll see people building mechs, building boats, ships, cars, using the crafting system in Tears of the Kingdom. All that stuff was QA tested to make sure that it works correctly. So I haven't come across the type of bugs that we come across in other video games. Jedi Survivor comes to mind. Another patch just came out for that game. And again, it's just a reminder of the type of quality and care Nintendo puts into their first-party exclusives, which is why they're so good. One of the reasons why they're so good. All right, but before I get into more Tears of the Kingdom chatter here, I do want to give a big shout out to everyone in the live chat. Thank you, everyone, for joining me this afternoon with this impromptu rant. And I'm going to drop a link here in the live chat. And if you could do me a favor, retweet the link or drop the link onto your favorite social media platform. Let everyone know that we're live. So, hey, what's up, Ice Queen Gaming? What's up, Jay the Destroyer? And again, hello to everyone. Yes, there's some leaks going around about the PlayStation showcase. I wouldn't put too much into those leaks. Although some of the games on there, don't be surprised if you see them at the show, but I wouldn't put too much in some of these leaks. Somebody said, you better be careful. Who was it? True Virgil said, you be careful on Twitter. The showcase has leaked and bots are flooding DMs with it. Jason M says, I've heard that Nintendo doesn't use crunch. They pocket finished games and then release them quarterly, fixing up bugs in the meantime. That's great. I mean, well, if that's the case, I mean, it's clearly working for them because, despite some of the fake outrage over Zelda being 30 FPS and people not understanding, we talked about this on Wednesday, the more extreme fanatical elements of the Xbox community who don't seem to understand the difference in hardware, which is mind-boggling to me. If you can't understand how the difference between performance of, let's say, a Honda Civic versus a Ferrari, I don't know what to tell you. Just a dumb comment, dumb comparison. I don't know why it's like. Why are we doing this? What is happening here? I don't understand. I don't understand what's happening. My goodness, Nintendo has Splatoon 3, which is their shooter. and it runs at 60 FPS on very, very old hardware, I might add. So there's that. But if both cars in a race and it's okay to compare them, no, it's not, DLW. Why would you compare a Honda Civic to a Ferrari? Like, why would you do that? I mean, and not you probably weren't here, DLW, when we talked about this on Wednesday night. If you didn't catch that conversation, I would encourage you to check out this past Wednesday's BRAP, where we actually talk about this. There's a difference in I'm going to talk about this again. I'm going to rehash this conversation because there may be some people in the live chat who didn't hear us talk about this on Wednesday. There is a difference between the expectation that people have of hardware that is 7 years old versus hardware that is new, versus hardware, in particular the Xbox Series X, which is a 12 teraflop machine, which is the most powerful console on paper in the console market today. The Xbox Series X is the most powerful console. DLW, you wouldn't compare them because you wouldn't compare a Honda Civic versus a Ferrari because the performance of those two vehicles are entirely different. That's why you wouldn't compare it. You wouldn't compare a McDonald's cheeseburger to a $25 cheeseburger at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. And those things carry different levels of expectations from consumers. But also 30 FPS, 30 frames per second is a standard in the first-person shooting genre today. That is why people were disappointed. And not only that, it's an Xbox first-party game. So again, the expectation of first-party games is that there's high optimization with first-party of the hardware because it's first party. So that's also the other issue. And then if you look at the other first person shooters that they have on the Xbox Series platforms, most notably Halo actually runs at 60 FPS and 120 FPS on the Series X. Yes, Jason, I meant to say that 60 FPS is the standard for first-person shooting games, especially on this current generation hardware. That's why it's disappointing that Redfall was at 30 FPS. There's no excuse for that. And people comparing Zelda to Redfall and calling out and trying to say, oh, the people that are enjoying Tears of the Kingdom at 30 FPS are frauds. That's a ridiculous argument. That's just why would you even have that expectation of 60 FPS open world game on a Nintendo Switch? And I use the Honda Civic Ferrari argument because if your Ferrari taps out at 60 miles an hour, that's a problem. If your Honda Civic does, it's a Honda Civic. Lord of Metro and I don't disagree with you. They are tons of idiots, unfortunately. Tons of idiots. And many of them are, the more extreme fandom camps, tribes, whatever you want to call them, in video games. And it's really weird. I don't understand it. By the way, I've also never said to anyone that you can't enjoy Redfall. That's perfectly fine if you enjoy Redfall. Like we say on the show, two states of beings can coexist. For example, I'm enjoying Jedi Survivor, but I don't like the frame rate fluctuations that the game gives me on PC. I don't like some of the stuttering when maps are loading in or cutscenes. I don't like those things, but I'm enjoying the game. But I'm disappointed that there's some performance issues in that game. No, my argument doesn't fall flat, DLW, because again, it's not the same race. It comes out to different expectations. The performance of a Ferrari is going to outpace the performance of a Honda Civic. So therefore, you have the expectation of a certain level of performance of one vehicle versus another. The argument doesn't fall flat at all. Like you wouldn't expect a $2,000 OLED C1 to perform at the same level as a $1,000 Vizio LED TV. You just wouldn't do that. And if the $2,000 OLED C1, which I'm referencing the C1 because that's a TV that I have, if the OLED C1 performs like a $1,000 Vizio LED or OLED, they do make $1,000 OLEDs, Vizios. Or if the C1 performed like a cheaper TV, like an Insignia, which I think you can buy at Best Buy, which Game Logic, I don't believe shops at Best Buy. Is that do I understand that correctly, Game Logic?
No, I think shopping at Best Buy is okay. It's just you need to understand that when you shop at Best Buy, your tech support is the Geek Squad.
Oh yes, the Geek Squad.
And if you're going into Best Buy, your tech support is the Geek Squad. And also, if you're going into Best Buy without understanding your requirements, because that's what, at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about your requirements for a given product when you go in and buy it. And the fact that some people have requirements, and those things aren't just willy-nilly, oh, by the way, maybe they come to fruition, maybe they don't. We often talk in the hardware world about you buy a piece of equipment for what it does today, not on the promise of new functionality that they're going to integrate later, right? Because they may never integrate that functionality. Or in the case of the Xbox, they may never deliver those games, which seems to be the point today.
Well, and that's kind of like and I look, I understand what DLW is trying to say. He's saying that the car analogy doesn't make sense. I'm like, no, absolutely it does, because the Honda Civic versus a Ferrari, there's a different set of expectations there. And he's saying, oh, they're in the same race. No, they're not. I mean, they are different performance deltas with those particular platform or those two cars. And again, an expectation. Again, I use the C1 as an example. The TV, you wouldn't have that expectation of a C1 to perform at the same, as a cheaper. I think the Best Buy brand is Insignia. 55-inch LED. You just wouldn't. Jason M says, I nabbed a C2 for $900. That's actually not a bad. It's not a bad deal. So, anyways, what's going on, Hamp?
Not much, man. I apologize for running late. I will.
No, I was like, did I get the times wrong? I'm like, because then I couldn't remember. I was like, was it 3:30 or 3? I couldn't remember.
Yeah, it's a very good leadership lesson for me. I will perhaps be a little more reserved before I tell my managers that I'm unhappy with them on a Thursday for fear that they might do what I used to do, which is cycle all sweat pumps to fast in an effort to satisfy the boss before they leave on Friday. So I was headed out the door with all things planned to be here for the start, and then
those are conversations you have on Monday, Hamp.
I've learned my lesson.
Yeah, you never do it on Thursday. That's why Thursdays and Fridays are always slow, man. And you get bad news on Monday and Tuesday, early in the week.
True.
And then that way, like, if you're putting the clamps on your staff, and they're like, oh shit, Game Logic, man. Oh man, it's Monday. Oh, we got to get this done by the end of the week.
I was compelled because it was not the first time that I was saying I was unhappy about something. So
maybe Microsoft should hire you. I don't know. I thought.
I don't think I would need to review my internal processes before I ship something out the door.
Oh, wow.
On a Friday, and then be surprised about how it landed on a Monday.
Yeah. Well, speaking of internal process, so I already shared this story with you earlier today, but I'm going to share it with the live chat here, and it's something that we've talked about in the show. And look, video games are very important to a platform, and quality exclusives, genre-defining exclusives that really create a lot of buzz around a platform are very important to that platform. It's why Nintendo is Nintendo. It's why PlayStation is PlayStation. It's why the OG Xbox outsold the GameCube. It's why the Xbox 360, which was such a success, because of games. It always comes down to games. It always has. I don't think that's ever going to change. Even with something like Game Pass, you still need to create content that people want to engage Game Pass for. And it needs to be really, really good content. It can't just be good games. It needs to be great games too. Yes, the good games are important, but I think the great games drive the conversation more. And when you miss on the great games, that's another conversation I don't think platform owners want to have. And I only say that because when I went to GameStop today, Game Logic, and again, I know I shared the story with you, but I traded in one of my Xbox Series consoles, and I was talking to, I don't know if he was a manager or associate. I would assume he was a manager because he was older. So I know I'm stereotyping here, but I'm assuming he probably was a manager. I hope he was a manager. He's an older gentleman. And he says so we were talking about the Xbox Series consoles. I was like, yeah, I don't, really use my Series X anymore. I have a gaming PC. And he's like, oh yeah, I have a gaming PC too. I don't use the Series, the Series X console is just not, it's not really an option for me because I already have a gaming PC. But he said, and on top of that, I'm not happy with Microsoft's optimization of their first party. Now, how many of these conversations, Hamp, are happening elsewhere
on a daily basis? Because, like I said, the problem, and I don't recommend. I've spent so many times in the last 23 years, right, arguing that people not be this type of consumer. I highly advocate, right, you don't walk into Best Buy, you don't walk into GameStop not knowing what you want, right, or not knowing what your requirements are, right? You don't go, some of you guys will learn this as you get older, you don't go shopping on the house market without spending a lot of time nailing down your requirements, right? Because one of the worst things to do is to be shown a house and not know what it is you want, unless you're specifically going out and looking for a house for the express purposes of like nailing those things down, right? Knowing you're not, right, really shopping for the thing you're going to buy, but you're really trying to figure yourself out. So, but there are tons of people who go into Best Buy and go into GameStop and don't know their requirements, haven't nailed down what it is that they're buying, but more importantly, haven't nailed down like the things that are their triggers, right? Their most critical must-haves versus their nice-to-haves. And so that's what GameStop and Best Buy employees are trained to do. They're trained to convey to you the things that you want to care about. A lot of times that has to do with ulterior motives. Like in the case of Best Buy, which has a very, was one of the big, made a lot of their big business off of, just-in-time inventory. And therefore, oftentimes when you want to go and buy a laptop, the Best Buy guy isn't going to try and sell you the laptop that you need. They're going to try and sell you the laptop that they need to sell, right, to clear inventory. But my point is that when you go into these places and you don't know your requirements, you're going to get a voice track. Lots of times you're going to get a voice track anyway, but it's a matter of whether or not you're susceptible to it, right? And sometimes those voice tracks are good, sometimes those voice tracks are bad, but sometimes the voice tracks are also just genuine, as in the case of what BRAP heard today, which was the personal conveyance of a message of how a GameStop manager, right, personally feels about their own consumer experience, right, of the consoles that are out on the market. And the dangerous thing for the companies that produce these things is that zeitgeist, that word of mouth, that mind share, right? We used to talk about that all the time as Apple was kind of, on their charge to become the big company that they are today, right? All the way down from where they were when Bill Gates had to give $1 million, right, to the company to keep them in business, to the time now where we always talk about the fact of the matter is that Microsoft has an overwhelming, like, there is no threat of market share, right, from Apple devices, right, in Microsoft spaces, right? They're not, iOS isn't taking over the desktop market. iWork is becoming the new enterprise favorite, right, for office software. But what Apple does occupy is they do occupy a huge amount of mind share, right? And sometimes that mind share can translate to market impacts, right? Again, going back to, the experience you had today.
Yeah, and you talk about the zeitgeist, and I think I used the word earlier today, that grassroots conversation starts happening and it gains traction. And you're seeing it. Like, we see everyone talks about, biased media, they're, complaining about Xbox, but the Xbox financials are healthy and they have some good games and things like that. But here's the thing. The conversation's happening. And it's not just happening from the media. It's happening. I mean, I don't know this person. I walked into GameStop and he starts having this conversation with me. And he further goes on to, he even went on to praise Nintendo because we were talking about Tears of the Kingdom. And he said, look, they QA tested all the ways you can fuse items together and create different types of vehicles to traverse the map and things like that. All the stuff that you see on YouTube videos and on Twitter, screenshots of people putting together different things, the mechs, the things with the what looks like Burning Man with the penis, that thing, all that stuff was QA'd. All that stuff was QA'd. And he said, he goes, and he said to me, he goes, this is my frustration with developers. Nintendo seems to get it. And he goes, I love Jedi Survivor. He goes, but, man, he goes, like, there's frame rate issues and this and that. And I'm like, I hear you. I hear you. And, these conversations happen. And think about it. Now I'm having this conversation with this GameStop manager. Now I'm on a podcast talking about it with, 68 people live plus Game Logic, and then these people that are listening to the show may go and talk to their friends about the conversation about, some guy at GameStop and he's not happy with the Xbox Series, the optimization of first party. So there's something to be said for that, is the point.
Yeah, let me throw a garden hose on some of this. Everything's great at Xbox. Financials are blah 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 blah. Right? I talked about this a few weeks ago.
I do want to say something. I just want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to. I want to say, because we've said this before on the show, and I think it just falls on deaf ears because people, they only seem to listen when we are providing, we're offering constructive criticism of Xbox. And we've said this on the show. They've had some good games this generation. We've also said they haven't had really great games that like we talk about that zeitgeist, that have that buzz, that have that. Look what's happening with Tears of the Kingdom right now. You go on Twitter, you see pictures of people playing the game. You hear conversation, you see it trending, you see it on YouTube. You hear the media talking about it. I walk into GameStop, I'm having conversations about Tears of the Kingdom. Actually, as a matter of fact, somebody, I forgot about this, but 2 people walked in to buy Tears of the Kingdom. So Alex,
while you were selling your Xbox?
Yes.
Hey, that's a 2 up, 1 down anecdotal proof. It's like the dude who always takes pictures of Walmart. No, Alex, I don't know that my mic is up. I was just yelling when I was saying blah 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 blah. So I'll try and be quieter. But I was a little amped because I get tired of people constantly throwing. I mean, DLW points it out. It's the constant like, Max, record revenue, and I'm like, revenue is not the single standalone indicator of financial health for a company. There are multiple factors. Falky talks about it all the time on this podcast.
Yeah, no, Falky does. Falky's actually broken it down quite a bit. But go ahead, because we saw this tweet this week where somebody's like, I don't understand why they, and I'm paraphrasing, why people say the sky is falling with Xbox. Oh no, why Starfield has to hit for Microsoft. I think it was an IGN article, And someone's like, I don't understand why IGN's saying this. The financials are good. They release some good games, but there's more to it than just that. But go ahead, Logic.
Yeah. So, I think people point at these singular linear data points, and they don't. It's kind of like Spock said in The Wrath of Khan, right? Their thinking represents two-dimensional thought, and they don't think of the multi-dimensional facets that these things cover. So, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, so I apologize for people who have heard it. But look, since 2014, Phil Spencer has been promoted to head of Xbox. Then he was promoted to executive vice president of gaming in 2017, and he has now been promoted to CEO of Microsoft Gaming in 2022. Since 2014, Microsoft has acquired, and this was flabbergasting even as I went back and did the math, right? Since 2014, Microsoft has acquired.
Hold on, Game Logic. I got to interrupt, man. Hey, DLW, the Honda is not a talking point. It's oh my God. It's an analogy. Jesus, go ahead, Tamp.
No problem, man. Since 2014, Microsoft has acquired 18 studios, and they have spent somewhere between $10 and $14 billion to acquire those studios. In that time, game division revenue rose from $11.4 billion in 2019 to $16.2 billion in 2022. So they had an increase in revenue of just under $5 billion. However, note in those 8 or 9 years, they spent close to $14 billion to acquire those studios to gain that $5 billion of revenue. Game software sales have fluctuated from a high in 2012 of $7.7 billion to a low in 2019 of $4.5 billion. So in the span of 7 years, they cratered software sales by a $3.2 billion downturn. They are now back up to a new high of $7.75 billion in 2022 was their software sales. Now, the point there is people run around and they say, software sales are better than they've ever been. Their net increase from 10 years has been to drive that revenue train up $500 million. And need I not put people through the pain of taking that $7.7 billion in 2012 dollars and accelerating those costs for inflation, which will actually come out showing that they're actually potentially making less money on software sales today than they were making in 2012. And my point of that all is it doesn't seem like a lot of juice for the squeeze, right? That a company goes out and spends the amount of money that they've spent on studio acquisitions, and they've moved the needle so little in software sales. In fact, arguably in the market, they have done nothing other than dog paddle and tread water. So that's just a little bit of the pushback on the notion that things are better now than they've ever been before, because they are quantifiably, objectively, mathematically, financially. That's not true.
Well, I think the tweet I just found the tweet that we're talking about. They did the gentleman did say, they're selling more Xboxes than they did last generation.
Yeah, but I mean, again, this is the failure to take relativism into account. You're talking about they're selling. I mean, no crap, they're selling more Xboxes now than they were the last generation when they were outsold 2-1. That's not something champions do a victory lap over.
I think we're getting back to that. I have to go back and look, but if I remember correctly, I do think we're getting to that 2-1 point again.
Yeah. Because that also doesn't take into account how the PlayStation 5 is doing in comparison to the PlayStation 4.
Yeah. Which Jim Ryan actually talked about in an article with Famitsu. He said that the PlayStation 5 is off to the best start of any PlayStation console, which, I mean, geez. I mean, it says a lot. If you think about the success of the PlayStation 2 and how well the PlayStation 4 did.
Right. And this during years of a recessionary downturn, right, on the economy.
Yeah, and having to deal with supply constraints too. I mean, that's
those are PlayStation 5 selling at higher rates than the last generation during a period of time that PlayStation raised prices on PlayStation 5s.
Yep, that's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah, so that's actually a great segue Game Logic into the NPD numbers, which it's not NPD anymore. It's called, what is it called now? Circana? Yes, it's Circana.
Yeah.
So IRI and NPD have come together to form Circana. I prefer NPD. I can't call it Circana. Circana just doesn't, I don't know. Seems like some AI company. But before we get into the numbers, though, let me grab this super chat from Donnell Brown with the $5 super chat. Says, I have to call BRAP out of his BS. When are we going that 2K game of you versus B Money? Or we're going to get that 2K game of you versus B Money. Look, Donnell, you have to talk to B Money. I've been trying to get him to play, but he's been busy playing other games and watching the NBA playoffs, man. So I don't know, but I appreciate the super chat, sir. All right. Circana's or NPD's top 10 video games for April 2023. All right. Let's see here. Number 1, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. 2, Dead Island 2. 3, MLB The Show. 4, Resident Evil 4. It was actually ranked 1 the previous month, so it's still in the top 4 there. No surprise here.
Hey, I just want to hold you up for a second. So just for clarity, you are going over the U.S. numbers.
Yes, the U.S. numbers. That's correct.
Okay.
Yes,
because the international numbers are slightly different.
Yes.
But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going over the U.S. numbers. Yep. Let's see here. Where am I at? Oh, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, number 5. Hogwarts Legacy, number 6, down from number 2. PGA Tour debuts at number 7. And Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection, number 8. I think Capcom's had a nice little turnaround. 9, FIFA 23, and 10, Mario Kart 8. And I will say that The Last of Us, I'm going to bring this up because remember this was a game that remember who asked for it?
That's right.
Yeah. So The Last of Us Part 1, the remake, is number 17. It was actually number 5 on NPD the month before, so it's in the top 20. So yeah, who asked for that?
And that's in the U.S. Internationally, it is 11th.
Oh, is it 11th?
Yep.
All right. Top 23, top 20 best-selling premium games. Hogwarts Legacy is still number 1. Call of Duty Modern Warfare is 2. Resident Evil 4 is 3. Man, I tell you, Capcom, God, I tell you, man, comeback story. Capcom. 4 is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. 5 is MLB The Show. Dead Island 2 is at number 6. Dead Space is number 7. FIFA 23 is 8. Madden NFL 23, 9. Elden Ring, Hamp. Elden Ring is 10.
A year later.
And yes, a year later. Can you imagine? I mean, that's crazy. 11 is The Last of Us Part 1. The Last of Us, man. I just remember the conversation over that game. Why are they doing this? Who wants this? Well, clearly people want it because it's selling well. Which, look, there's going to be a Last of Us Part 2 remake. That's going to come. That's going to happen based on the performance and numbers that Last of Us Part 1 did. God of War Ragnarok is 12. Mario Kart 8 is 13. Minecraft is 14. Pokemon Scarlet Violet is 15. Fire Emblem Engage is 16. Forspoken is 17. Sonic Frontiers is 18. Octopath Traveler 2 is 19. NBA 2K23 is number 20. So those are the NPD numbers. And I'm not going to go into the individual platforms, Hamp. But any surprises here? Anything that surprised you from the top 10 for the month of April?
I don't think. Actually, I'm surprised. I am surprised that in the U.S. numbers that Dead Island 2 came in at number 2. That's
that's kind of a surprise to me too. Yeah,
it's kind of a pushback on the notion that Embracer, and by way of Embracer, Deep Silver, that's just like a chop shop of video game studios. Yeah. But they stick the landing at number 2. Actually, the thing I'm most surprised by this is for me personally is that I've played so many of these, because usually I am not my what I play tends to not be like the NPD charting stuff. So I feel validated, without the need to cap.
Oh my goodness. PlayStation 5 was also the best-selling hardware platform in dollar sales during April, while the Nintendo Switch led the market in units sold. So I would imagine that boosting it by Nintendo. I believe the previous month, PlayStation 5 topped both dollars sold and units sold. But I would imagine the Switch LED selling the most units probably had to do with the anticipated release of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So those are the NPD numbers. But yeah, I agree with you. I was surprised to see Dead Island 2 at number 2, man. That really, I was like, really interesting.
Jason may be on to something that he's maybe think. It may be that this may be a rare instance where so many of the games in the NPD charts are dude bro games. And the only thing they validated is that I am a dude bro gamer. So either way, I'm okay with that.
I think I said that on Wednesday. You might be a dude bro gamer. Because you're not playing Hogwarts Legacy. You're not playing Resident Evil 4. You are playing MLB The Show.
I've played parts of Resident Evil 4. I have a physical copy of PlayStation.
Oh, okay.
Of Resident Evil 4 on PlayStation 5. But you're right. I am not playing Tears of the Kingdom. I'm not playing Hogwarts Legacy. I won't be playing Final Fantasy 16. Yeah.
You're casual.
Now, okay. You tried to get me back for the Walmart and the Best Buy slander.
Exactly.
I get it.
Yeah. Because let me tell you something, man. I walked into Walmart. I felt weird today. I had to go to Walmart today, and I felt weird. I had to get the Nintendo Switch. And that was the other thing. They were out of the Switch Pro controllers at GameStop. So I had to go to Walmart. Of course, Walmart had them in stock. And I'm walking in there. I'm like, oh, man. I'm seeing the T-shirts. Family, freedom, religion. These colors don't run. And I'm thinking, we need a Target where I live.
Yeah, and I actually going back to part of our in the shocking thing on here. Correct me if I am wrong. I don't think I am. There are no Xbox games on these lists, right?
There are no exclusive Xbox games on their list, but Minecraft is on the top 20 for games sold for the month of April.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah. But no, they are no exclusive games.
And Minecraft Legends is on the US list in at number 11.
Yes, I'm sorry, Minecraft Legends. That's right.
So there's your torch. I will you Xbox people out on the outer edges of fandom on fanaticism. You're gonna get pushback on Hi-Fi Rush, on what's the thing, Ghost whatever Tokyo. But you can on Grounded, on Pentiment, but you can throw Minecraft Legends and Minecraft in my face, and I will capitulate to that.
Yeah, because that was exclusive because that wasn't a multi-platform release. That was actually exclusive to the Xbox platform, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, Legends was, yeah.
Legends was, yes.
I believe, yeah. I'm not a Minecraft expert, so I'm not certain on that, but I assume and believe that it was.
Yeah, so Minecraft Legends at number 11. Then there you go. I mean, so much for the Game Pass effect. It charted number 11. So they had one game. And Nintendo had how many Nintendo have here? 1, 2, 3, 4 games. 5 games in the top 20 for the month of April.
And one of those is Mario Kart 8.
Yep. Yeah, right. An old game. Yeah.
Right.
And then Sony had The Last of Us Part 1 at 17. It was 5th the month before. And then they also have MLB The Show, which is a multi-plat now.
I take that back. I started to question that. I was like, because when you said Game Pass, I was like, is Minecraft Legends exclusive to Xbox on Game Pass? Because then how in the world did it make the sales list? It is actually on, it is not exclusive. It is on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 5 and 4.
Legends?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Legends is not exclusive. All right. So I was mistaken. Okay, I was wrong. So Microsoft has no exclusive games on the NPD top 20 then.
Yep.
And Nintendo has like 5. God, Nintendo is killing it, man. They've sold almost 1 billion units of software on the Nintendo Switch. Oh my God. 1 billion. 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 1 billi
Yeah, it just goes to show you it's not all about frames per second. Although frames per second is important for certain genres. I mean, and this is the confusing thing about that argument. I apologize. You may have mentioned this before I got on. Like, you know, like you can say that you can make you can put out an argument that the media is biased if you want to try to go that route. You can put out you can make an argument that YouTubers, right, that whole circuit, right, because it is a closed loop, right? The YouTube podcasting circuit is a relatively closed loop. People can move in and out of it, but that the formation of that ring is not something variable. There are some known entities, right, in that constellation. You can say that ring is biased, right, about Nintendo and not showing the same energy for Tears of the Kingdom as they did for Redfall. But what you cannot say is the market. When you see a clear indication from market sales, that is the market speaking. And that is not all due to media bias or whatever other types of excuses you want to come up with. That's the market. That's supply and demand. That's what the suppliers are reacting to in terms of what games they fund and what games they sell. And those are the consumers responding with their dollars, right, to things that move the needle. Things that don't move the needle, right, wind up where they are. And so it should be, yeah, when hardware game sales are down, that is proof, right, that the needle's not moving.
Yeah, and we did see the series consoles being down 35% year over year. I mean, that was what, back in, I think, February? I think it was February. That's
yeah,
back and look.
And I mean, I combine that with other pieces of evidence, right? It's not purely the hardware sales, because I mean, even I said, you know, that's hardware sales in comparison to year over year. So comparing it to a quarter when hardware supply was up, where Microsoft had made specific negotiations for components that made them more available to the Microsoft supply pipeline than PlayStation. But again, then what you compare that to is, you know, the fact that the software is not there, right? And that, again, what I said is the guy in Best Buy and the guy in GameStop, they're not selling Xboxes on a voice track around Grounded and Pentiment, you know. So you can't come up here in the chat saying, you know, oh, well, Grounded, well, Pentiment, well, Ghostwire Tokyo, well, Hi-Fi Rush. Those things aren't selling Xboxes.
No, they're not. I mean, they're just not. I mean, and that's just, I mean, you can look at the numbers, the console sold. I mean, they're not pushing hardware out. I mean,
yeah, and that's
again, that's not to say that Microsoft sucks. It's just that those are just the numbers. It is what it is.
Right, and we need to separate some of these arguments. Right, a lot of people are making the argument, well, you know, people don't, you know, that it's cap, or you're not being genuine when you say, you know, Game Pass doesn't satisfy people. Like, look, when you're already invested in the ecosystem and you're already subscribed, yes, assuredly, if you're the type of gamer who, you know, is stimulated by just content being there, right, in volume, then obviously you're probably satisfied. There's a reason that all-you-can-eat restaurants exist. There's a reason for Golden Corral, right? But there's a reason.
Corral's gross.
There's a reason why when you tell kids that you're going to take them out to the best pizza place in town, that they still want to go eat at Cece's, right? Because it's all you can eat. But there are other people who have more discerning palates, who want different things, and are willing to pay an individual per unit sale price for those rather than a subscription. All that says is that there are just two different types of consumers. But the people that are in Game Pass and are satisfied by it, what that knocks, you know, the legs that knocks out from underneath you is this contention that nobody should be unhappy with Game Pass, right? Because there are different types of consumers, and some people have had it right up to here with Game Pass, and they've moved on.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point, Hemp. So I don't know if you saw this logic, but the Xbox or Microsoft has cleared another hurdle with the acquisition of ABK. The Chinese government has approved this merger now.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah,
I did miss that.
That happened today. So China said yes, we're okay with it. Deal will go through, no issues, and now it's just down to the FTC and then the appeal from the CMA.
Yeah. Well, I will say that's the first one that surprised me. It didn't surprise me that the CMA blocked it. It didn't surprise me that the EU approved it. I was predicting China was going to disapprove it, though. So that was a surprise.
Yep. So so China's approved it. So now it's the FTC's next for the month of August. So this thing is going to drag on, and as I said before, I'm just, I think the unfortunate thing that I've seen in the more fanatical side of the Xbox communities, there's more talk about the deal than there is about actual video games. And I don't know if that speaks to the state of Xbox. Maybe not having, those great gaming experiences. They've had some good ones, but not great. The other platform manufacturers, Sony and Nintendo, have had great experiences sprinkled in with some really good experiences as well. So I don't know. Maybe that's why those conversations are having in those groups, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I have often had Xbox. Not all the fans that are out there on the edges of fanaticism, come at me sideways, more than once, and I go and look at their profile page, and it's just like it's a scroll of like the Call of Duty end credits, like 30 minutes long, of nothing but legal babble and justifications on why stuff is good for competition. No gameplay, no clips, no even JPEGs, none of even the dumb, and I personally do think they're dumb, none of even the dumb shots of like the controller in your hand with your socks on your feet with the introductory page of a new game right up on the screen. I call them dumb because so often I see accounts that post those and then you never again see another picture of the game. Right, which just tells me they started the game, put the controller in their hand, but I don't know that they played the rest of it. None of that. Nothing but a bunch of, legalese propaganda about, the business side, which again, we love talking about the business side, right? But then we actually play games as well.
Yeah, I can't stop gushing over Tears of the Kingdom. That's what I'm saying. I wonder if the focus and the obsession is because of the lack of those not having those games that are just critically acclaimed and just the center of the conversation right now, like Tears of the Kingdom. They haven't had that. They haven't had that in a long time, in my opinion. They used to. I mean, like I remember the OG Xbox. I think that's part of the issue too, Amp. And I've said this on the show before. I don't think people have that historical perspective that we do, being on the original Xbox, the Xbox 360, and how people used to talk about those consoles. I mean, and being around when they announced things like Gears of War. Geez, I'd never forget that announcement at E3. Holy shit. But and by the way, don't quote tweet anyone who has you blocked. Don't do that. If they're in the Xbox community, they will verbally accost you and then slide into your DM while they have you blocked, verbally accost you more. And yeah.
Yeah, remember Steel Battalion on the Xbox 360?
God, I'm sorry. Hey, I'm sorry. Hold on, man. Oh, Jesus. I'm telling you, people are crazy, man. People are crazy, but it's not that serious, everyone. It's video games. If your first inclination is to respond to someone with curse words over the commentary about video games, it's probably time to reevaluate your life and your mental well-being or lack thereof. But anyhow, go ahead, Game Logic. Yes, I remember Steel Battalion.
Yeah, the big controller, and that's what I talk about games that and I understand being innovative and stuff, but I don't know.
Wasn't that game like $200? Like you needed Steel
you needed the controller.
Yeah, you need like a desk to stick the controller on, and then it had like pedals.
Oh yeah.
Steel Battalion was no joke. It's actually a really good looking game too. Oh man, the original Xbox has some really great looking games. I mean, wow.
And I talk about like the community, right? Like not the social media BS, but like the actual community of gamers playing games on Xbox Live. I mean, the thing that sticks out in my head is how like in my circle of friends on Xbox Live. First of all, we played Friday and Saturday nights, and often Friday nights I was getting out of work, rushing home, not even wanting to take time to eat, so I'd order pizza, right? Order Chinese food. You'd literally be like playing,
food of a dude bro. By the way,
That's right, dude bro gamer.
Hey, actually, I think DLW is he wants some clarification on what a dude bro is. You might want.
I said someone who plays aggro bro games only, racing games, flight sims, first person shooters, fighting games, sports games, etc. You know, these guys that people say accuse us of only playing what is it, Halo, Gears, and Forza. Which, look, again, one of the accusations that I got when I said I sold my Xbox Series X was, well, you're just complaining because you only play Halo, Gears, and Forza. I'm like, that's not all that I play, but that is specifically why I'm on the Xbox. And when they haven't delivered on that for 2.5 to 3 years, that creates a consumer problem, And you can be happy playing Grounded and Pentiment, and some of the other things. Nobody's taking that away from you. I'm just saying they don't satisfy me, and that's why I'm out. But back to what I was saying, like I remember the summer Chrome Hounds came out, and I remember changing my work schedule, right, and going to work at like 6 o'clock in the morning so that I could get off by 2 or 3, so I could connect with my squad on Chrome Hounds, and we would just spend hours just in the garage, just like building mechs, talking, eating food, and then we would spend more hours like then taking all those new mech configurations out, right, and taking them to battle. And Chrome Hounds was an exclusive, and I remember trying to fighting every month, trying to keep my squad together, right, my homies together, because what would happen is we would be playing a game. I would have just bought it.
By the way, real quick, Chrome Hounds is actually, for those who don't know, like
FromSoft.
Yeah, like you said, Hamp, it was a Xbox 360 exclusive from Software, published by Sega. I mean, think about this. Xbox had From Software exclusives at one point. So when you hear us being critical of current, like Xbox today in their current form, this is why. From Software exclusives were on the Xbox platform at one point.
Yeah. So I don't believe that Sony, and again, I don't believe the voice track. Look, man, Phil has always expressed a philosophy in many cases that I believed in, and sometimes still says things where I say I believe, right? And like literally, that's what I would say when I used to hear him talk. I would stand up and say I believe, but like some of the things from that last interview, man, they don't resonate with me. I don't believe that Sony and Nintendo do things that make it hard to be Xbox. If Sony and Nintendo do things that make it hard to be Xbox, stop trying to be Xbox, right? Start redefining what Xbox is.
Xbox does things that make it hard to be Xbox.
Right. But I'm sorry, just to round up that, I remember like a tough thing, right, talking about, referring to the amount of games that were available on the 360. One of the hardest things was keeping my crew together because we would buy a game, I'd buy a game, spend $60 on it, play it, everybody's playing multiplayer, then the next month, something new is out. All these guys are taking the game that we just bought and going to trade it in to get the new thing. And I'm like, I'm not trading in my games. I just bought this game for $60. I'm not done playing it. But I mean, that's just a testament to, how much content that there was available and how it motivated, so many people to go out and engage, right, with those games that there were literally times in the generation where you couldn't keep up, right, with all the stuff that was coming out.
Yeah, I remember. I remember people saying like, I remember I had friends that were on the PlayStation 2 and we got a 360 and I remember them seeing Call of Duty, which was and Perfect Dark, which were launch titles, and I remember them saying, "Oh my God, I gotta go out and get this," and just never looking back at a PlayStation again. I mean, it was that, and then all the titles that were on that. I mean, there were so many great. I mean, geez, that might be one of my favorite consoles of all time. Yeah, I wasn't big into Chrome Hounds like you were, but I do remember I was part of an Xbox Live clan, and I remember going through the same kind of or having the same experience with the circle of gamers that I've gamed with on Xbox Live, where we'd be on a game. Sometimes we'd be on a game for like a week, and then a new one come out. Like, all right, we're gonna go to that game now. Like it was like that. You didn't want to miss out.
Dude, we loved Xbox 360 so much that one of the experiences that I will remember forever is, so first of all, we played Project Gotham Racing Hard, again, Xbox exclusive. We I don't think we invented it. I won't go that far, but I will say we were playing hours on Friday nights of cat and mouse as a made-up game mode before it was ever incorporated officially as a game mode in PGR. So I think PGR 4 had an official game mode for cat and mouse.
You guys made it up, dude. They were.
We were playing cat and mouse. So, but the bigger experience that I remember is we love 360, the exclusive game, so much that we created and hosted a PGR 3 cat and mouse tournament at a time where nothing supported it. Xbox 360 parties didn't support it. Xbox Live didn't support it. There were no forums. We put this thing out on a forum and built it, and like I made up like ladders at like the NCAA tournament and matches, and put out times and a schedule like on a spreadsheet, and we just had like a big ass tournament for cat and mouse. Like that's the amount of dedication. You know, EJ talks about culture, and I'm going to tell you, the first time EJ said that on Crossfire, I was like, I don't know that I'm buying that. Like I'm listening to the thesis and the argument behind that and the comparison to hip hop, and I'm like, I don't nah. But I tell you, man, over the last couple of weeks, I've just thought about it more and more and more and more and more. I go, no. Yeah, there is culture and there is recognition of culture and there's building and buying into that culture from the console manufacturer. And like those things that I talked about of like how we were like dudes on social media today act like consoles are their lives. Like they're not. I mean, for me today, they're not. Like they don't have that hook and that investment like they used to do, where the online community and the service layer was literally like part of where you lived your life and had your social circle. I'm like, but I created friendships in the 360 generation that like I don't necessarily talk to all those guys anymore, but they're like I will not delete them from I've curated my friends list on Xbox I don't know 8 dozen times, 10 dozen times. I just have people that I won't delete because they you know those friendships were forged in that time period, and I still see them pop up on my timeline. You know, and I mean that's an example of what EJ was talking about, man. All those other things that I've talked about is that culture, that anchoring into your nostalgia and the fabric of your memory. You know, and if you're not building experiences like that for people to live in and partake in, then there's just an emptiness. I'm sorry, but the people saying Game Pass is what keeps me hooked into the system, when Game Pass is just all you can eat smorgasbord of random food, that doesn't anchor into the fabric of my memory. That doesn't create nostalgia. That there's no feeling that I associate with that, right? That's just a Netflix cavalcade of, you know, a screen full of JPEGs of content, but it's not memories. You know, it's just not the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, to your point, that I think if Game Pass had some of those, like we talk about those big not AAA, but just really great games that drive a lot of conversation amongst the gaming community, which they haven't had. Again, that's not to take away from some of the good games they've released, but let's face it, like Hi-Fi Rush, great release, good game. That's not a game that a lot of people are going to be talking about 2-3 years down the road from now. It's not a game that people are going to be like, hey, you need to try Game Pass because of this, you know, because of Hi-Fi Rush. Like a lot of people aren't going to go out. Not that no one will, but many consumers aren't going to go out and sign up for Game Pass and, you know, spend $120, $180 a year for Game Pass because of a game like that. They're just not. And I talked about this on a couple BRAPs ago. I said, imagine if Game Pass had launched on the original Xbox. And then I started rattling off some of the really memorable games that people still talk about today. Halo being the obvious. Halo 2. KOTOR. Morrowind. Jade Empire. Splinter Cell, which was born on the Xbox console before it went multiplat. Ninja Gaiden. I mean, those are great games. Forza was born on the Xbox. Imagine those games I just mentioned. I rattle off on Game Pass. Then I think it's a different conversation. I think those games then would lead people to say, you know what, I need to subscribe to this service. Look at all these amazing games. Because you're right, there's something to be said for buzz, for conversation, where you like, oh my God, I gotta, like you mentioned Chromouts, I gotta go hop on Xbox Live. I gotta go meet up with my buddies. You know, I feel like some of that's been lost, in particular with the Xbox. We're not having those same conversations around these great titles, these creative games, these must-have, killer. They call them killer apps. These must-have killer apps that want you to stay engaged in the Xbox ecosystem or subscribe to Game Pass. They just haven't had that. I don't need to spend $180 to enjoy Hi-Fi Rush. I can pay, what is it, 20? I forget how much. Is it $20? How much is Hi-Fi Rush?
I think it's 30.
$30.
I thought it was 30.
I can just throw $30 to save myself another $150. I mean, like I just, again, I understand everyone's different. There's people that just want that buffet style. They want that Golden Corral experience. That's not me. That's not what I pay $500 for the world's most powerful console to do. I just don't. And again, that's not to say there's anything wrong if you. And I got. You said this earlier, Hamp. I think a lot of the times when we say these things, people seem to skip by the fact that we're talking about us, our experiences, our individual use case, and what we want. That's not saying that what you want or your enjoyment out of Xbox is wrong. No one's saying that here, by the way. That's fine if you like it. It just doesn't work for me today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I started the pushback. The pushback I started with was not about, is Game Pass worthless, right? It was the comment somebody made that like everybody should be happy with Game Pass. I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, someone actually said that to me. Like, why are you complaining? Like, you get all these games for $180. No one else does that. I'm like, it's the best value in gaming. I'm like, okay, now you're rattling off talking points from Xbox-centric podcasts. So and not everyone's going to see value in that. Nobody wants that buffet type experience. And if you do, that's fine, but don't. Just like you don't want people, because I see it. Oh, these people are hating on Game Pass. I like it. Just like you don't like people hating on Game Pass. Don't do the same for people who don't see value in it.
Yeah, and Jason Ames brings up a good point. He says it's hard to shake the feeling that Xbox gets flack for not having exclusive third-party games, despite the discussion always being their first-party performance. And Jason, and I don't think you're capping. I think you're bringing up a true right point, right, of a thing to be kind of wrestled to ground. And to me, even though I said Halo, Gears, Forza, it's not as important to me whether or not. It doesn't matter to me that Halo, Gears, and Forza are third party or first party. I don't care. It's that type of game, and again, I'll say I'm a dude bro gamer. That type of game, right, is what I was looking for. And they're games of that type that again are big games that really move the needle, that really impress people. I mean, one of the accusations somebody threw at me is they were like, "Oh, so there are no first person shooter games or racing games on Game Pass." I'm like, maybe there are, but they're not the ones that are making a big enough splash, right? That have enough differentiation, that have enough innovation. And here's the thing: that wring every ounce of performance out of that hardware, right? Yeah, Assetto Corsa, the first and the sequel, are probably on Game Pass. They're on PlayStation Plus, right? And those are great games, but because they're multi-platform, they weren't designed with the utmost in hardware optimization for the Xbox, right? I mean, and that's what people want, right? When they spend $500 on a console.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's a great point, Ham. I do want to move on to another topic here, Game Lodge. Unless you had some other. I didn't want to cut you off, man. If I don't know if you were done making your points here.
I am going to want lodge one other contention.
Yeah, go ahead.
So David Mack says, I like to keep what I buy. Maybe BRAP and Game Logic can't afford to. So first of all, let me flex and say, I'll be damned if it's a matter of can't afford to. No, it's the point of I don't need capital that I can use for a better purpose tied up in an object that isn't doing me any good.
What is David Mack, sir? You have no idea what you're talking about. David, I want to ask you something. What's the most you've spent in an 8-week period on gaming? I want to know dollar-wise. What's the most you've spent in 2 months on video games combined? So for those 2 months, if you combine those 2 months, what's the most you've ever spent? I'm just going to wait here for him to respond. Yeah, because like you said, Logic, it isn't that we can't afford to. It has nothing to do with can't afford to. I mean, I at one point I had 3 series consoles in my house, 2 PlayStation 5s, a VR headset. I've got a $2,000 or $2,200 OLED TV. I don't have a clue, bud. I do, David. I spent $7,000 in 2 months. $7,000 in 2 months in video games. Have you done that? And I did so in cash. Have you done that? I'll wait. Anyhow. And I have, by the way, yes, Brian Landis, that's right. And I have 14 kids. And I have 20 chickens, 3 rabbits, and I also own a horse. And owning a horse isn't cheap. Go ahead, Logic.
Oh, I don't think I was going to add anything other than me, other than my household being in the top 6% earning bracket of the country. But
my God.
Did I mention that statistic? I apologize. I normally wouldn't bring up anything like that, except when somebody accuses me of not being able to afford to hold on to my Xbox if it's not doing me any good. Just because.
Oh, man. Me first says a horse, he's a pony. Get him.
I mean, you can have a $500 box sitting on your desk depreciating when it's offering you 0 entertainment value. Maybe it's less a matter of you being able to afford to keep the Xbox and you not understanding the time value of money or other financial factors like that maybe those of us who have studied economics and finances do understand.
Yeah, and by the way, I really don't have 14 kids. Ryan is actually exaggerating. I only have 4. That's just an exaggeration. So just to clarify things, I see some people say, like, holy moly, like that's a lot of bump and grind. No, that's no, I don't have 14 kids. I'm 4. But let me tell you something. Having 4 kids, if I told you all what my monthly expenses are, I bet you some of your jaws would drop. And that's with mortgage, kids, cars. It's a lot. I'm not going to say that out loud. But yeah. So don't come in here trying to flex, trying to say that we don't have any money. Yeah, don't do that. Especially with Game Logic, by the way. Definitely not you.
I mean, what's the trope that Xbox fans are broke and that's why they invest in Game Pass?
Yeah. Yep. So, all right. I do want to move. Sorry, Hap. I think you were going to make another point, right? Before we.
No. I didn't. I really didn't even want to make that point, but I was so provoked.
Yeah. Yeah, so just don't do that. Don't come in here flexing. Just don't do that. Don't say like we're broke. Just don't do that. What's up, Bulbor Conchi? Bulbor, I'm sorry I've been able to join you on your show on Saturdays, man. Saturdays are just tough for me with sports right now. We have multiple kids in sports. It's tough, man. But I'm gonna hop on your show sometime, man. As soon as soccer and baseball season wrap up, man. So probably sometime next month.
Wait, Bulbor has a podcast?
I'm sorry, not Bulbor. I'm sorry. I got Bulbor confused with someone else. I'm sorry about that. No, not Bulbor. Bulbor does not have a podcast. That's someone else. And I got them confused because I'm getting older. So no,
dude,
So sorry about that, Bulbor.
I thought Bulbor Country had a podcast. I was about to say, dude, I'd tune into that content.
Yeah. No, sorry about that. We haven't seen Borbor here in a long time. Borbor, where have you been? You've been MIA, man. Maybe you've been in the shadows, but real quick, we talked about PlayStation, the showcase this past Wednesday, and there's a bunch of leaks out there right now, and I would take those leaks with a grain of salt. But was kind of thinking about this more, and I was thinking like, damn, it's been 2 years. And I was thinking, God, they got to knock it out of the park. They got to knock, because I would be disappointed if it's something, and I don't think it's going to be on the same level as the State of Play. No, I'm not going for 15 kids. I don't have 14 kids. 4. See, this is what Ryan Landis started.
Oh my God, dude, we said Boy Boy Country 3 times, and damn if he didn't show up like the freaking Candyman.
Right. So I was thinking about this more. Logic. I 2 years, and I'm like, they have to knock this out of the park. Or I do think a lot of fans are gonna be disappointed in the show. I'll be disappointed. And what I mean by knock out of the park, I want to see new titles. I want to see new titles from some of their other first party studios. We haven't heard anything in a long time, like Ben Studio being one of them. I want to see some of the remakes that have been rumored for a long time. I want to see new content, new games, remakes. I want to see them show me things that are like, that really get me excited for the future of PlayStation. I know B Money's talked about, like, they had the first showcase 2 years ago. That was for the first half of, the PlayStation 5 console life cycle. This is for the second half. But I thought the last showcase they did was actually a pretty strong showcase. They had that huge surprise with Knights of the Old Republic remake being developed. No one saw that coming. That was huge. Those are the kind of things that I want to see. And for me, Game Logic, there's a little nostalgia. Like E3, I remember being surprised and being wowed at previous E3s, and I want that kind of experience. And I do think Sony needs to knock it out of the park here, because it has been 2 years. I think a lot of fans are expecting that. They have been, piling up content or keeping things, at bay for the show. I don't want to see a Knack remake. Don't say that. I don't want to see a Knack sequel. Oh God, we're gonna get Knack. Actually, I didn't mind the first Knack so much. I was actually okay. I played it. It wasn't too bad. I liked it. It was all right. But what do you think, Ham? I mean, is that kind of a fair expectation, you think, to have for the PlayStation Showcase, that they have to deliver here?
Man, so I'm going to comment all over the place. First of all, I want to catch Jason Ames. So Jason Ames says, as primarily a PC gamer, I just want to put the blinders on, because I sure as hell I'm not going to get to play the game shown anytime soon. Jason, I am personally hoping that they talk about games that are coming to PC too. I would love to hear that Ghost of Tsushima is going to make it to PC. Because, with the exception of the TLU 1 remake, every PlayStation game that's come to PC has just been, one of the best looking games. Like Death Stranding, Director's Edition on PC is probably one of the best looking games that I've ever seen.
It looks really good. Yeah.
Spider-Man, but particularly Spider-Man Miles Morales, is one of the best performing and looking games on PC. Actually, now I've officially moved that up to my favorite game of all time.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. I'm sorry, Logic. I don't mean to interrupt. I was going to mention that too. I want to see some of the other PC ports that, and Ghost of Tsushima would probably make sense, because they've been on that like 2 or 3 year release cadence for PC, it seems like. And I think we're at that point with Ghost of Tsushima. So yeah, I want to see those PC updates. And by the way, that interview with Jim Ryan, Famitsu, he doubled down on that. They're going to continue that 2 or 3 year release cadence on PC for their first party stuff.
Yeah, did he say that most recently? Because I thought Herman Hulst made comments about them tightening that loop up when he was interviewed last year.
Yeah, he said that with this recent interview with Famitsu.
Okay, I mean, so me as a gamer, just in terms of like what I'm into, I really don't care. Like, not in its entirety. I want to see Spider-Man 2, and that's all I really care about for the showcase personally. And I would like to see some indications of what's coming down the pike for Gran Turismo DLC, because like I said, I'm a dude bro gamer. That's really only all that I care about. In terms of gaming politics, and chewing popcorn and just watching the show and liking salty tears, I kind of hope that yeah, I do like tears. Did I mention that before?
What?
I hope what's coming. I mean, so this goes back to the whole E3 way that the game between Microsoft and PlayStation was always, who's going first, right? Who announces something before the keynotes, who drops what, who keeps what in their back pocket, right? I think because PlayStation knows that the Xbox showcase is up next, I'm hoping that the strategy is, like you said, I hope they just plan on drowning out, right, any notion of Xbox. I hope they're playing the gamesmanship and wondering, thinking what Xbox is going to be announcing, and making sure that they have so much content in there that no one will make any comparison, right? That if Xbox is going to talk about games, which I don't think is the Xbox norm. We sometimes this weird revisionist history that like PlayStation talks about games that are releasing or that have firm dates, and I go back to how they showed Tilu 2 for 4 years before it finally shipped. So no, when I go back and review all the past showcases and E3 shows, things that have been shown by PlayStation have not had firm release dates. They've had years, right? Coming in 2020 right? But no specificity other than that. That brings me on another thing. There is no certain date announced on Spider-Man 2, so I'm hoping we get a date. I would even be satisfied with September, because again, that was a Tony Todd, possible leak, not really official corroboration by PlayStation. So I hope they just plan on drowning out any potential Xbox volume at the showcase and just like hammering like everything, like PSVR 2, that we see some of these multiplayer games, that we see Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 2, and that, they just, and that they announce, right, some of these rumored exclusives, right? Some of these remakes that are then going to be made exclusive. I know that's going to be painful for Xbox fans, but, I'm quite frankly, like I said, it's politics, and I'm being a little petty and a little messy. I'm kind of hoping that they twist the knife and drown out some of this foolishness that goes around. And I'm hoping that they just, I know the exclusives are going to be painful for Xbox fans, fanboys more specifically, fanatics more specifically. I'm just hoping that they put out the whole dumpster truck, and silence all this noise about PlayStation has an exclusives problem this year, and things of that nature. As we see God of War Ragnarok still sitting on the NPD top charts.
That's the most ridiculous talking point. They don't have exclusive. I mean, look at the body of work. Like if you're entering into this console generation and you're looking at just first party exclusive stuff. I mean, like what? I mean, who's got the better portfolio? I can tell you that Sony does. I mean, I could rattle off 3 games off the top of my head. Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Spider-Man Miles Morales in particular, Demon Souls, Horizon Forbidden West. I mean, like it's what you're describing logic. Like it wouldn't surprise me if they backed up the dump truck and said, "Here's what we have," because the one thing that Jim Ryan said early in this generation is that we're going to let the games do the talking, and that's why you're seeing them be aggressive with third-party relationships, getting third-party exclusive content. I mean, I've talked about it on this show. There's an article. Imran Khan wrote an article. He was talking to publishers, and publishers were saying that Sony was actually outbidding Microsoft. Sony was actually outbidding Microsoft for third-party exclusive content,
which makes absolute zero sense that Microsoft would allow that to happen.
Yeah, I'm surprised Microsoft. I mean, you got $1 trillion war chest. Like, why would you let a smaller company? Froggy T, right? It's funny. You talk about console warring, and then you bring up. He also said he believes in generations. What does that have to do with him saying that he's going to let the games do the talking? That doesn't Froggy. That doesn't take away from his comment or somehow discredit his comment. It doesn't discredit his comment at all.
Well, I was going to mention Froggy T. Froggy T said earlier that sounds like fanboy talk. And Froggy, I'm glad you came to that conclusion, but I kind of gave that to you on the front end. I said I'm being petty and messy about it. I said that this is gaming politics, But part of what it's driven by is I love rational talk. I love basing things on fact. And there's a sect of the Xbox community that doesn't base their criticisms on fact. There's a sect of the Xbox community that takes umbrage to any criticism that you ever levy against anything about Xbox. And that's just ridiculous. That's just taking it too far. So yeah, I do have a petty hope that this showcase is going to wind up being a big STFU in a lot of the people out there that purport a lot of the foolishness, right? Because I'm tired of it. It makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
And they use it as an accelerant to spread misinformation and disinformation about so many things.
Especially when Phil Spencer's basically confirmed everything that we said about Xbox in his interview in the Xcast.
Right. Because I said Xbox said that all these games would be out in 12 months and none of them have been delivered. And Xbox fans told me, "Oh, you're lying. They never said that. Look at the small print." I posted the transcript of Sarah Bond saying that on stage 3 times and circled in the transcript where they said that. And people said, "Well, you're making something up. You're taking it too far. You're taking it too literally." To have Phil Spencer come on the interview and say, "There are no ifs, ands, and buts about it. We don't need to sugarcoat it. You don't need to say not necessarily. We didn't deliver on the 12-month plan." His words.
Yeah, Phil, he confirmed that. I mean, everything we said, and not to, rehash the Phil Spencer the interview, but everything that we talked about, all our criticism of Xbox, he confirmed those criticisms, those critiques that we had of Xbox. Phil confirmed those things. We talked about mismanagement production pipeline. He talked about we need to reevaluate our internal process. We should have gotten in touch with the team before, sooner than later. We had, they were working with, I think, Unreal Engine 4. We had studios that were, subject matter. I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said something to the effect that they had studios that had used Unreal Engine 4. We should have kind of had better collaboration. Those are things that we talked about. Phil Spencer confirmed those things in an interview. And all the people are like, "Oh, you guys are hating. You guys are just making stuff up." No, Phil Spencer confirmed everything we said on the show in that one interview.
Hey, and by the way, hey, me first, please. Don't take what I said too far. Look, if they want to put Sarah Bond on the stage again and let her say 12 months plan, I have zero problem with that. You can put Sarah Bond out on the stage. She could do the whole show. I don't even need to see Xbox. They can put Xbox trailers in the picture-in-picture up in the upper right-hand corner. Don't advocate for taking away any amount of my Sarah Bond content.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but no, I do think though, Hamp, it wouldn't surprise me if they back up the dump truck and they're like, "Here are all the great games." And these are going to be games, by the way. They're not. I mean, some of them will be smaller titles, but these are going to be games that when we think about video games moving the needle, when we think about video games creating that zeitgeist, which again we said this on the show earlier, that Xbox, in my opinion, seems to be missing. They're going to have that at this show. And if they don't, it's a big miss for them. I'll be the first one to say that. That's why I said it's been 2 years since the last showcase. And the last showcase was a big showcase. We saw, remember the trailer for Wolverine. We saw KOTOR, the Knights of the Old Republic remake being announced. We saw all these things. And so you got to imagine that, look, like Jim Ryan said, hey, we're going to let the games do the talking. And so far this generation, they have let the games do the talking. They have done a great job at releasing first-party content that gets people excited, that gets people running out and buying PlayStation 5s. If you don't believe me, look at the PlayStation 5 sales numbers. I mean, Logic, we don't get enough credit for this, man. Like, people always like, "Oh, you guys are fanboys." But a lot of the points we make are based on tangible evidence. Or as you like to say, data points.
That's correct. I would contend that my track record for predicting how the ATVI deal was going to unfold has been absolutely perfect.
Well, except for China.
Except for China.
We got to bring that up for all the Walmart slander, but that's another conversation.
And hey, I just want to make sure I am not objectifying Sarah Bond. I have the utmost professional respect for her. She made that Sega deal happen. That was her with the relationships that she has with Sega. I'm just going to cop to. She's a very beautiful woman, and she doesn't need to be pulled off stage. just because she said 12 months. She could say 12 months again. That's all I'm saying.
She could say Halo. She could say Halo Infinite's the best Halo game of all the Halo games.
She can.
And I'll just nod my head. Yes, you're right, Sarah. Say Walton said, was there something going around for them saying that they want this to be a statement show? Yeah, there was some like rumors, something on Twitter that I saw with Jim Ryan saying like, let's like basically shut out all the noise, drown out all the noise, and make this a statement show, something to that effect. I don't know if that's true, but it wouldn't surprise this. I don't expect anything less from PlayStation, this PlayStation showcase, other than being a statement show.
Jim Ryan's backstage going, "Let's go!"
Yeah. Jim Ryan's out there like Steve Ballmer, sweating, pounding his chest, giving high fives. You know, I'm telling. Look. I just more recently, I just think in playing Tears of the Kingdom. I just think Nintendo and Sony are the best at this right now in terms of creating games. And that's not to say that, because I know some, Xbox got some good studios. I'm not saying, like, I love Tim Schafer. I really enjoyed Psychonauts. They do have some good studios, but in terms of consistency and just quality, I mean, it's Nintendo and Sony right now, in my opinion. And that's where I want to see Microsoft get to that level, because it benefits me. It gives me even more choices. That's how I came up gaming. When the original Xbox and the Xbox 360 were firing all cylinders, Microsoft was dropping these amazing experiences. That's what I want. Like that is the ultimate gaming experience, to have all those three platforms firing on all cylinders, giving us gamers just amazing content. That's what I want. And it's weird to see people say, "Oh, how dare you want that?" What? Anyhow, go ahead, Ham.
All right. Hey, I do apologize, but I do have to bounce. I got some commitments I gotta get out to.
No, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the show anyway, because I gotta go do some things as well and get ready for Crossfire at 7 p.m. Yeah, so I'll be on Crossfire tonight, Mooch's channel at 7 p.m. And I want to thank everyone in the live chat for hanging out with us this afternoon. Really appreciate the time. As always, please do me a favor, smash that like button and subscribe, hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. And Game Logic, always a pleasure talking video games with you, man. Thank you. And I'm not.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
I'm not working on shot number 5, but thank you, everyone. Hey, have a great weekend. Enjoy playing video games, and whatever platform you enjoy playing video games, because that's what it's all about. It's all about having fun at the end of the day, no matter what platform you're on. If you enjoy that platform, that's all that matters. Just remember that. So thank you, everyone. We'll catch you next time.